This is how you can retire from one property.
So this property was a 3-bedroom flat upstairs, and downstairs, a clinic. They actually had planning to turn the clinic into a 2-bedroom flat. The problem is, let's say you have a 2-bedroom flat and that's worth around £325,000, and you have a 3-bedroom flat worth around £350,000. If you add that together, the entire building is worth £675,000. If you buy the entire thing at £600,000, and then you pay stamp duty, legals, finance, refurb costs and everything else, and in the end it's only worth $675, then you're not going to make any money. So instead of doing that, what we did was we submitted plans to extend this wall out slightly. So it used to finish here, and then we extended it here on the ground floor and on the first floor. That meant we had enough space to turn each floor into 2 flats as opposed to a flat downstairs and a flat upstairs. So we had flat 1, flat 2, flat 3 and flat 4. Each flat would have its own parking space and its own garden, and that just added even more value. After a few months of back and forth, we eventually did get planning permission to turn it into 4 flats. We thought each flat would be worth around £275,000 to around £290,000. And so if you have 4 of those, that's anywhere from 1.1 million to 1.15 million. Now, by the way, I know most people watching this don't have the funds to do something worth £1 million right now. I'll cover later on in the finance section how you can get the money to get started. Now, people tell you that you need some sort of special website or business cards, some sort of leaflets in order to get deals. And the thing is, that sells courses because you can then say, hey, just do this thing and you'll get a deal. In reality, the way you make money from property is the way you make money from literally any other business or any other way of investing, which is you have to be able to see an opportunity which no one else can see. And if you can spot an opportunity to make money, that is how you'll make money. Most people looking at this property would have thought, I'll just have a flat downstairs, a flat upstairs. They would have realized it doesn't make any money and they would have moved on. But if you can spot some sort of potential, it doesn't have to be this big. You find a small 1-bedroom flat, you then find a way of turning that into a 2-bedroom flat. It's just you're finding a way of genuinely adding value.
Now the problem started when we started doing the refurb, including this button, which cost £12,000.
Before I get into what the button does, one of the biggest questions I get in property is, if you're doing a property refurb, do you have to live close to the property? The reality is 95% of property investing is just you sat at a desk, not actually being at a property. So it would help to have this. I've been sent one of these desks to give away to one of my viewers. It's a standing desk by FlexiSpot, who's also the sponsor for this video. Now personally, when I'm working, I hate sitting down for hours and hours, but the problem is if I then stand up and work, I'm always kind of looking down at this weird funny angle. So with a standing desk, if you want to stand up, you simply just press this button here and the table starts to move up. And you can set it to the exact height that you want to set it to. Probably not this much. So now if I want to stand up and work, I can do that quite easily. If I want to sit back down, I simply just press the button again, and then it just comes back down to the height that you want. The top and the base, they come in different colors, so you can choose whatever color you want. Now to win one of these, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to pick one new subscriber to win one of these desks. If you're already an existing subscriber, click the link in the description below, click on my Instagram post, and either comment on my Instagram post or share my Instagram post to enter. And next week I'll pick one person, and FlexiSpot will get in touch and they will send you a brand new desk.
Basically, if you press this button, there's a window up there that automatically opens up if you press that button. Now the reason we had to get that was because of building regulations, and so if there's a fire in this communal area, that thing opens up by itself automatically, all the smoke goes up, and that cost £12,000. The other thing is, this property is actually in a conservation area. Believe it or not, Stevenage actually has a conservation area. What that means is that this area has a lot of old properties, and because they want to preserve those old properties, they want everything to look a similar way. So this here is the old part of the house, and this is a new part of the house. So what they wanted was, once planning permission was approved, which took months and months, we then had to send samples of these bricks, not just like an online link, we had to physically send one of these bricks to the council to get them to approve that this is the same as this one here. And that took another 2 months.
Now the other problem we had was we had people working here on a day rate. What that means is that we were paying the laborers by the day as opposed to for a fixed term. Now the benefit of a day rate is the fact that you can sometimes get it done cheaper if you trust the person, which we did in this case, and the people were really good. But the downside is there's no real incentive to finish the work off because it's not like you have to move on to a different job. So the issue was every time we'd come around for an inspection, it would pretty much look the same as what it looked like the previous time. And when you buy a property on short-term finance, bridging finance in this case, you can't really afford for the project to go on for too long, because the longer it goes on,
the more money you end up paying for financing. We had the initial delay because of the extension and the bricks. We had some delays because of utility companies. It took forever to get the electric supply in, and then we had some more delays because people were on day rates.
Now, to make the problems worse, we bought this property in November of 2021. After so many delays, we finally finished in October of 2022, the same month this happened.
Then came the mini budgets. That went up to a peak of 6.1%.
Mortgage rates aren't likely to return to low levels anytime soon.
Now, because of the mini budget, interest rates started to go up, mortgage lenders started to pull out. The big problem was that when you have a property where you've turned a house into 4 flats, you can't actually go to a normal lender. You can't just get a normal buy-to-let mortgage. You have to get what's called a multi-unit buy-to-let mortgage because there's 4 properties in one building. And so not every single lender lends on properties like this. So now when a lot of lenders started leaving the market, and there weren't that many lenders in the first place, when you have a multi-unit product, there's even fewer of those. So then we had to wait another 2 months until the lenders started coming back into the market in order to lend. And so after a few months, we finally had Paragon, who said they would be happy to lend, but Paragon said they would lend on the building as an entire block as opposed to individual flats. What that means is, imagine you buy a pack of 4 of like Snickers chocolate. The pack of 4 is always going to be cheaper than buying individual Snickers bars one at a time. This company here, Advocate Finance, they reckon that when a lender values the entire building as a block as opposed to individual flats, there's a discount of around 10 to 15% because it's valued as a whole block. Now, one of the brokers who was looking at this deal for us, they told us a similar thing. Typically, with a freehold block of flats, there is usually a discount on the value as the block could only be sold to an investor rather than an owner-occupier. This is typically a discount of 10 to 15%. So now, if you're doing a property project, that's not ideal because you want the best valuation possible. But in this situation, we couldn't get the best valuation possible because at that moment in time, it was very hard to find a lender who was willing to lend on individual flats as opposed to an entire block. The valuation finally came back from Paragon. They valued all 4 flats in one building at £990,000. So that meant each flat was valued at £247,000, 500, just divided that by 4. So if you apply a discount of 10 to 15%, that means the property is worth anywhere between 1.1 million to 1.15 million. So this is what the numbers look like on this particular project. So we bought the property for £600,000. The refurb cost £308,000, more than what we expected. The finance cost was £61,500, again more than what we expected because we have so many delays, we had to pay a penalty and everything else. The legals and stamp duty came to £25,500 and the total cost was £995,000. Our current valuation on this is £990,000, so technically we're £5,000 short, but in reality the property is worth anywhere between 1.1 million to 1.15 million, and so therefore the paper profit should be anywhere between £100,000 to £150,000. This in no means is the best property project I've ever done. I mean, it had refurb delays, it had bridging delays, it had a mini budget in the middle and everything else. But if you think about it this way, when people invest in buy-to-let property normally, if a property is worth £990,000, that is how much they pay because they just buy something from Rightmove at market value, they rent it out and they call it a day. Whereas if you can go through all these issues and you can have all these delays and you can still end up making a paper profit of £100,000 or £150,000, then it's not that bad.
Now, once this property is fully furnished, the rent for each flat should be around £1,150 per month.
Now this is the cash flow. The rent on the property is £1,150. The mortgage at 5.3% interest rate is £820. The maintenance, I normally account for 10% of the rent, which is £115. The insurance is around £20 a month. So that means one flat makes £195 per month. If you have 4 flats, that's £780 per month. Now you might be thinking, well, how do you retire from £780 per month? Because most people will not be able to retire on £780 per month. So if you look at the projected UK interest rates for the next 5 years, this is a prediction from the Bank of England that by 2026, the interest rates will come down to around 3.6% in Q2, in Q2, and that should just continue to come down and down. Now, before all of this mini budget stuff happened, you could quite easily get a buy-to-let mortgage at 3.5% interest rates. And in a few years, we should basically be back at that mark again. If in 3-4 years I refinance this property and at that stage the interest rates are at 3.5% as opposed to 5.3%, well, that mortgage goes from £820 per month to £542 per month. And the other thing is the rental forecast by Savills. Savills thinks that between 2023 and 2027, the rents will increase by 18.3%. So currently the rent is £1,150. If that increases by 18%, and rents do generally tend to go up every year, that goes from £1,150 to £1,360 per month. So as a result of that, the monthly cash flow goes from £195 to £683 per month, and across 4 flats, That's £2,732. That's almost £33,000 of income from one investment property, which is pretty close to like a starting graduate salary. So now the big problem when it comes to pulling this off is essentially having the money in the first place to do something like this. So you basically have one of two options. The first option is this: you work for someone for free. You get all the experience that you need in terms of how to find a property like this, how to do a project like this. You then use your experience to raise money. So you buy for £600,000, you spend £395,000, so you're all in for $995,000. And in the end, it's worth anywhere between 1.1 million to 1.15 million. You make £100,000, you make £150,000. I think this is a worst case scenario because so many things went wrong. You then split that 50-50 with whoever you've raised the money from. So you make £50,000, they make £50,000. The lesson of this video isn't you take some money, you buy a property, you rent it out, and that's essentially all you have to do. The lesson is you have to find some sort of way of adding value which someone else can't see. And if you can do that consistently, then you can make money from property. Now that might seem like a very, very hard thing to do. Who's going to lend you money? How are you going to get the experience and everything else? But that's no different to any startup in this country or in America or anywhere else in the world. But you know, it's not always as simple as that. So this is option number 2. When I started my property business 7 years ago, I wasn't doing stuff like this. I essentially rented a flat for £725 a month. I put it onto Airbnb for £2,000 a month. I made £1,000 in the middle, and I did that again and again for years. I still have some of those properties today. So it's not like I got into property straight after university, because that's the biggest misconception when I make videos like this, that I started doing it straight away. I did a lot of small stuff, and then when I finally got into buying properties, I bought a tiny 1-bedroom flat which I turned into a 2-bedroom flat. I did a few of those, then I bought a 3-bedroom house which I turned into 2 flats. So you don't have to start doing something big straight away. All you have to do is find the smallest thing you can do to get into the world of property, use that to get experience, get credibility, start raising money on small projects, and then eventually you can start moving up to the bigger projects. Now on YouTube, everyone makes it seem like it's very, very easy. There's a system, there's a checklist, there's a blueprint, and all you have to do is copy and paste that blueprint and you'll essentially get there. In reality, it will take you a lot longer than you think, and it will come with a lot more issues than you think. I don't mind going through one of my deals which had a lot of issues and didn't go exactly as I planned because I'm not trying to sell you some sort of course. All my courses are free on YouTube anyway, which all of you can access for free. But I'm just trying to paint a realistic picture of, you know, what it takes to make money from property. There's going to be issues. Go into it knowing it's going to take you much longer than you think, and it's going to have a lot more issues than you think, and you'll be fine.